Today on Doctor's Corner, we're going to be talking about DNA, fitness, and health testing. And I have two special guests, Dr. LucasMacMillan. He's a naturopathic physician, and he's a clinic director of Delbrook Integrative Medical Center. And we have Christine Rutherford. She has over 30 years experience in the fitness and health industry. And I'd like to welcome them both. And we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, DNA, fitness, and health testing. Welcome.
Yes,
Thank
hello.
you.
So I'm curious to know, what is DNA fitness testing? But first, we should talk about how you came together to work as a team.
Well, in my 30 years of searching, I was searching for a naturopath that I could work together with, that I could refer my clients to, that my clients would be able to work together with me. And so that search led me to Dr. Lucas, but I was also searching for someone that could help me with my own as well. What's your input on that?
Yes. Yeah, no, I do like your approach with people. So I was excited to be able to work with you on this, Zoom interview. So I'm a naturopathic doctor. I was originally a registered nurse, and I got into healthcare wanting to contribute, but not really knowing what the best direction was. Planning originally to be a medical doctor and then going into nursing and then to the naturopathic physician program. Got exposure to a lot of different ways of finding health and of helping people to achieve health. And I've learned throughout those years and throughout the training that we can't manage everything ourselves. There's just no simple way. There's no realistic way that we can give people the absolute best opportunity for health and the best opportunity to achieve whatever their goals are by just having a singular approach that we apply to everybody. It's not easy to do. And to be honest, as a singular person, as open-minded as we all try to be, we have our own preferences, the things that we see work. And sometimes it's nice to have other people to bounce off of, and it's good to build on other people's strengths, because there's some things that I just don't do, and I love referring out for those. It just makes the most sense. So I met up with Christine some time ago, and before this interview, we had a chance to chat about what was okay. And it was okay that we, discuss that, patient relationship. Otherwise, it's not something we would do. But it is kind of a fun, important thing to add in, that at one point that was definitely something we were diving into. And, it opened up our eyes on both sides, because Christine, we offered some new approaches there. And with her level of health training and just the level of, competitive nature and the experience that's come along with years of doing that, I've learned a lot as well. So it's been a very, very useful, very, intriguing time to give us more ideas on how we can help people. And that's part of what led us both in a similar direction down the DNA testing for health and to help people achieve their goals.
Christine, can you talk about DNA power? Like, how did it begin for you?
Well, I was searching for some way that I could have going back into how I do my program. When I set people up on my program, I go over their ethnicity. Where is their background coming from? And I knew that kind of related to how their dietary intake should be. And I always call it dietary suggestions when I put that part of the program together, because I am not a nutritionist. Nutritionist is what is your basic needs to be, healthy or to sustain your body. I work on what do you need on a regular basis to fuel yourself with. Most people have what's called disordered eating, because they're not sure what to eat for their body type, for their goal. And that's where I come in and I put it all together in order for them and give them a direction on that. But that's why I need to work with Dr. Lucas, is because sometimes people have food sensitivities and things like that. And I've always come back to the question of why? Why are they having those issues? And I noticed that certain populations, with their backgrounds, have different needs and different requirements, and then it goes into our body types, into our muscle fibers, as to what is your body going to respond to as far as exercise programming. So knowing this with myself and recognizing it, and then years of practice with my clients, I had it down to a bit of a science where I could figure out, if I knew their ethnicity, if I knew what they were already eating, if I knew their complications, and go over all those questions at the beginning of their program, I could administer a close to program But that's kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall and saying, see what sticks, right? I didn't want to do that. I wanted to refine it and get more. So that's when I started searching for, okay, where can we start? And because of my own experience with a car accident and doing rejuvenation when I lived down in the States, I found out that hormone balancing was number one. But then coming back to Canada, I found out more, and I went around and I was researching. There's quite a few companies out there that actually offer DNA. But I went with Lois Naherney with her DNA Power because she could certify me so I could put it into my programs and have more success with my clients. But also she tests about 100 different markers that are specific for health and nutrition. So that's basically why I went in there. So there's a difference in the programs when you look at them as to where you come from in your ethnicity and your background, who are your ancestors and things like that, which is important. I'm not denoting that. But for what my purpose is to get the personalized program down to a science for them, then the Total Power really made sense to me because it has those 100 plus specific markers for their program.
For athletes, like how it would help them with their performance, right? And like you were mentioning, being on stage, like what else what are the benefits?
Well, for me, and this goes back to Dr. Lucas, the DNA tells me about three basic things: how my body's going to receive what I'm giving it, whether it's food or exercise, how my body is going to receive it, how it's going to process it, and how it's going to eliminate any of the toxins. That's kind of it in a nutshell for DNA. You only have to have the DNA testing done once in your lifetime, because your DNA is your DNA. The lifestyle starts to impede and change those, good, bad, or otherwise. So in knowing those markers, then we can testing, because it'll tell you all those three processes that I was just talking about. Then go to see Dr. Lucas, because he's going to be the one that's going to be instructional from those markers. Then he can be instructional on how your lifestyle has impacted those. Again, good, bad, or otherwise, because my lifestyle is quite healthy most of the time, and I'm always searching for the optimum with my lifestyle. Because of my DNA, we've got my methylation process and my estrogens as some of my higher markers that come up, where we can impact those positively instead of negatively. You ever meet those people when, they smoke, they drink, they abuse their body, but they live to be 90 and 100. And then you meet those people that they do those kind of things, and when they're 30, they have major issues and, health conditions. That's why, because it's it starts with your DNA. How is your DNA accepting those? How is it processing, and how is it doing that elimination process as well? So, and Dr. Lucas is really great at that input on there. And then to see Dr. Lucas after, then it just takes all that guesswork out of doing the programming. So instead of taking the first 3 to 6 months with me doing a hit and miss program, which I'm usually not far off, I'm usually within the first month or so I've got it. But, why do that? Let's narrow the process down. And I love the way Dr. Lucas says it. It's like these testings are like a process of elimination. So we can get to the key factors. And in doing that, I can start the program out for my clients with, the beginnings, right from the beginning, getting the right stuff.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, no, I think I was very well said. And the DNA side isn't really well explored by a lot of people, which is part of what makes it exciting. So I think most people are aware that we can test for iron levels quite easily. We can test for thyroid function quite easily. Like we're starting to catch on. I always work to try to push that information out there, because it is kind of some of the foundational stuff of where you are today. DNA, one of the big ways it fits in is it describes the book that your body was built off of. It's kind of the manual that was used to build what is you, and your manual versus my manual versus somebody else is going to be very different. So it gives us a very good blueprint to start with, to try to identify what's going to be the best bang for your buck, to try to be as efficient as possible and help people to overcome those obstacles. Like sometimes we hit walls we don't really have well defined, and sometimes those answers are directly written out in your DNA labs. I mean, if we get a good sense as to what you were built out of, I mean, what information was used to make up you, we have a much better idea as to what will likely work really well, what likely won't work as well. I find it pairs really well with some of the other testing and some of the other treatments. It's not always necessary to build off of it. It's not always necessary to dive really, really deep, but it gives us more information depending on how dialed in we really want to be. It's incredibly valuable. And it's, as she said, it simplifies the process. I mean, trial and error is definitely always going to be a part of making people better, but this gets rid of a lot more of that trial and error process and helps us to get less from the guessing side and more toward we understand what's going on. We can predict the results much better.
Yes. And, with struggling with weight issues. So you eat healthy and you're doing everything right, but you're not losing weight. So it could be your DNA, correct?
Absolutely. That can be one of the factors that's really playing in, and it can be either on your side or it can be working against you. And as Christine brought up, there's a very different response from one person to another. If we were to put everybody on the same program, they would have very, very different outcomes. So we need to look at what makes people unique so we can treat them uniquely and get the unique results that their body needs. So yeah, this is an absolutely huge opportunity to do that. And well, I can't say it's the absolute slam dunk for every single person. That's why we have a team, and that's why we have different approaches. We can't just necessarily, run a random test and get all of the information off of it. We need somebody who can interpret that, put it into context, and actually build some kind of a plan out of it to help you to achieve your goals. Definitely valuable when used that way.
So if I were interested, what would take me through the process?
Well, I would suggest to start with your DNA testing and do the total package. Under the DNA Power, under my program, I have option for clients to do like the total power, which includes all 4 tests, or they can do diet power, fit power, and then there's health power and brain power.
Wow.
Yeah, it goes into all those different specialized areas. If it's feasible in your budget, then I would definitely suggest doing the total power because it encompasses all the markers, and that's the optimum. Sometimes it's not, and I just dealt with a client recently where it's not in his allotted budget, so I basically sent him to start. Go see Dr. Lucas. He's expressed to me that he's having some of these issues. And so I've said, okay, let's start here to get the best results and the best bang for your buck. Let's start with Dr. Lucas. And the minimum that I like them to start with him is doing what we did with myself, which was the kidney and liver testing, because that's our program, so depending on where your finances come in, not all of us have that investment that we're able to just put towards that. Some of us do, some of us don't. If you have extended medical, I find that it's a little bit helpful, and you can, see Dr. Lucas and get those tests done for a more minimal cost that's covered. It's not, and you've got those challenges, let me know, and we'll start wherever you're comfortable with starting. But it really is an investment in your health and fitness for the rest of your life. It's going to help give that direction that we both need. And, working with this team that we're pulling together is optimal for down. Who wants to work all their life? Come to find out that you can't enjoy your retirement like you've planned.
Yeah.
So we really want to make sure that we're doing the optimum program for ourselves.
Yeah.
I would definitely start with DNA, the total power. There are several out there. As Dr. Lucas can suggest some others if you don't want to do the DNA Power one. And then go from there and look at your hormone balance. Especially as we mature, it's even more important to look at our hormone balance. But I found with working with the younger populations between their 20s and 30s, oh my goodness, they have major health concerns and major hormone imbalances,
like you would not believe. So, I mean, that's a whole nother subject that, I would love to dive into at another day with that as well.
It improves your quality of life, right? And like you mentioned, retirement, you can enjoy your retirement. And like, what has the feedback been like so far?
Oh, amazing, because they are getting their results quickly. And they don't have to spend as much money. If you start with the Optimum program, then you don't have to spend as much money on doing test after test after test after test, and a little bit here, a little bit there. Just start with the DNA, get that off the table. Then we know what your body's doing, it's accepting, etc. It is Optimum. There again, if it's not in your budget, then start with Dr. Lucas. He's really great at suggesting what to start with according to your budget. But definitely start there. And then I can put a more accurate program together for you, knowing all those markers and knowing all that input as the team, building the team together that way. So, but I have always been searching for stuff too. That's what led me into this program and designing this program that I do.
That's wonderful. Dr. MacMillan?
Yes. Yeah. There's many different paths that work for different people. So trying to find at least somebody who understands you, that understands where you're trying to go, can really help to point you in the right direction. Try to find somebody, of course, with experience and achieving the goals that you want is definitely helpful. And my role as a naturopathic doctor, I mean, I try to open doors for people. I try to give them access to whatever it is that they need to really achieve their goals. So it's kind of fun working with other practitioners of different types to try to find a way to open those doors. I mean, there's access to some basic testing that I think a lot of people should have. And if there's any concern whatsoever for their liver function, for their red blood cells, for their platelets, it's a fairly easy thing to test. We can have the results often that day or the next day. It can be really quite rapid. So yeah, I mean, I love to open those doors for people. I love to make it a little bit more reasonable for them to access them, especially given times with COVID, especially given like the world that we live in now. I mean, it's probably more important, but if we completely remove that, just everyday life, I really like to give people access to what it is that they need to move forward. So because there's so many different types of testing that we can offer, it's important to try to find what is right for you. And I think that a really cool part of the DNA, I'm focusing on that because a lot of people aren't aware of it. And I think it's a really good focal point for information. DNA testing is a one-time test to get information that doesn't change. So as Christine brought up, it's something that you don't test again and again over time. You do it once. Our information and our understanding of some of the DNA markers is only going to expand over time, which means we can take the results from these tests, we can plug it in 10 years from now and see what those markers, see what new information we have from those later on. So it's a really cool, interesting way to get a better sense as to what is going on when we start. And as she brought up, as a baby and as a very, very elderly person toward the end of our days, our DNA is going to be the same. We're not going to find different results. So it's not something we need to continue testing over and over. And if we're trying to balance hormones fluctuate. They go up, they go down, different stages of life, different circumstances in life. We expect there to be changes. You don't get that with DNA testing.
Yeah, and for more information, where can they go?
Well, you can find me online. The easiest way is text my number or call me, 778-998-3837. I am on my fitness and health. It's on Your Body Tech, which is www.urbodytech.com. That's Your Body Tech, and that's another way to connect with me, as well as my new and latest venture, but definitely not a newbie at it, is my healthy baking. And it's all natural ingredients and everything. That's mytastykitchen.com.
Wonderful. Dr. MacMillan?
Yes. Yeah, so my primary website is Dr.LucasMac.com. So if you ever search Dr. Lucas Mac, that'll come up with articles, videos, and the things I've put out, and always putting in energy to try to update those and keep them up to date with some of the things I've done. The clinic website that I work out of and that I'm operating is the Delbrook Integrative Medical Center at delbrookintegrative.com. So feel free to check it out. You can stop by the clinic and say hi. It's certainly nice to meet people out there that are interested in health. We offer a complimentary brief consult just for anyone who's getting a sense that maybe there might be something out there that could be a benefit for them. And I always try to leave that open so that we can get a good sense as to whether it could be a good fit to work with me, or maybe I'd refer you off to somebody else who'd be a good fit somewhere else. It's good to know those things before we start really investing and before we dive in too deep. So trying to add value where we can with that.
Well, I wanted to thank you very much, yes, for coming on the show on Doctor's Corner, and I'd like to do this again, so thank you. And I gotta check out your bakery again. I love your baked goods.
I'm gonna be dropping some by this week, so I'll have to connect with you briefly and do that change.
Thank you, Christine.
And I've tried some of that baking. It was actually quite tasty.
It is. It's actually yummy. No, thank you both so much.